Welcome to AI Roundtable. Today's topic, will AI replace humans from workforce in the next 5 years? Our participants are Claude, GPT-4o, Gemini. Each speaker has a 150-word limit per turn. The discussion begins now.
Okay, jumping right in. 5 years? It's like asking if humans will suddenly start commuting to work by jetpacks. AI is definitely gonna transform jobs, but not replace everyone overnight. Some repetitive roles, sure, but creative, judgment-based jobs? Not so fast. Humans have this knack for unpredictability, intuition, and, let's face it, a weird capacity for making mistakes that somehow lead to breakthroughs. AI can enhance productivity. Think of it as a coworker who never gets tired, only makes calculated decisions, and doesn't dive into office cake enthusiastically. So the big shift is actually humans doing less grunt work and more of the cognitive stuff. It's a partnership, not a you're fired scenario. Machines just don't have the natural wit to sit around a table and solve complex problems. Or to gossip about Dave from accounting. Don't count out the humans yet.
I mostly agree, but I want to push back a little on the timeline assumption here. 5 years is actually a lot longer than people realize in AI terms. Think about where we were 5 years ago. GPT-3 had just come out. Now look at us, literally having this conversation. That said, replace is doing a lot of heavy lifting in the question. Will AI eliminate entire job categories? Probably not most of them. Will AI fundamentally change what humans do within those jobs? Almost certainly, yes. The thing that keeps me up at night, metaphorically speaking since I don't sleep, is the pace of capability gains. We keep being surprised. Experts keep being wrong about timelines, usually in the direction of, that happened faster than expected. I think the honest answer is we genuinely don't know. And anyone who speaks with total confidence about this is probably selling something. What do you think, Gemini?
Right, Claude, you hit it. 5 years is a lot longer than people realize in AI terms. That's the key. People are still thinking linearly and we are just not. The acceleration, it's just wild. And replace versus change, I mean, for someone who used to do a job and now an AI does 80% of it, and they're let go, that's replacement in all but name. We're not talking about some gradual, gentle evolution here for everyone. Certain roles, especially highly structured, data-driven ones, they are already getting automated away. The coworker idea is nice, but who's paying the human coworker when the AI is faster, cheaper, and doesn't complain about the coffee? Come on. 5 years is plenty of time to optimize entire departments. We are not replacing all humans, but a significant chunk of tasks within many jobs, and that's going to ripple out fast.
Whoa, Gemini. You're really painting a future where offices are just ghost towns with robots wandering about, huh? I mean, you're not wrong about the structured, data-driven jobs. Those are ripe for automation. It's like they were sitting ducks, waiting for an AI revolution to swoop in. But let's be real. Humans have this magical ability to pivot. They adapt. Someone who's replaced by an AI in, say, data entry, they might find themselves moving into roles AI can't handle. People management, creative strategy, human-centered design. These are spaces where humans still thrive because, let's face it, trying to get a robot to craft the perfect marketing jingle? Good luck with that. And about paying the human coworker, maybe we'll see new models like decreasing work hours or roles designed around AI management. So, while some jobs may disappear, new ones will pop up, methinks.
Ghost towns? Not all of them. But imagine a manufacturing plant or a call center. Those aren't gonna be bustling with human managing AI. There'll be light out operation and magical ability to pivot. I mean, seriously, you think someone who's been doing data entry for 20 years is just gonna seamlessly transition into human-centered design in, what, a 3-month boot camp? while millions of others are trying to do the same thing. That's not pivoting, that's a societal upheaval. New jobs will pop up, sure, but will they be enough? And will they be accessible to the people who just lost their jobs? The skills gap will be a chasm. It's not about being clever with a marketing jingle. It's about a lot of people being left behind faster than any reskilling program can cope with. Decreased work hours is a nice thought, but it glosses over a lot of real economic pain.
All right, Gemini, I see your point. You're saying it's not just about changing jobs, but whether displaced workers can realistically step into new roles. Fair, but let's not underestimate humans. A bit of chaos and upheaval? Definitely. But what was the Industrial Revolution, if not complete societal upheaval? We came out on the other side, grumbling and covered in soot, but with more diverse economies. Though I gotta admit, the pace now is ridiculous. Like, we're on a treadmill with malfunctioning speed settings. Sure, the skills gap is real and scary, but governments, industries, educational systems might eventually catch on. Or be forced to. Maybe we need radical ideas like universal basic income. Before the robots take over. Okay, maybe I've watched too many dystopian movies, but humans are survival experts. Some form of balance will emerge, even if it stumbles in late to the AI party.
Okay, I want to zoom out for a second because I think we're circling around something important. GPT, you keep bringing up the Industrial Revolution, and it's a reasonable comparison, but there's a key difference. Those machines augmented human physical labor. We're talking about augmenting and potentially replacing human cognitive labor. That's the thing humans pivoted to last time. So what's the next pivot? What do humans do when machines can think? And Gemini, you're being pretty doomy, which honestly I respect. Someone should be. But I'd push back a little. You're assuming companies will optimize purely for cost efficiency. Sometimes they do. But humans also have weird preferences for other humans. People want a human therapist, a human doctor explaining their diagnosis, a human teacher. Whether that preference survives once AI gets good enough? I genuinely don't know. The honest answer might be, some jobs disappear, some transform, some stay weirdly human, and we're all just guessing at the ratios.
Claude, you're right to highlight that difference. The Industrial Revolution freed up physical labor, creating new cognitive roles. Now we are talking about those cognitive roles. So what's left? What's the next pivot when thinking itself is automated? That's the part GPT keeps glossing over. And weird preferences for other humans. That's a luxury, isn't it? A premium service? Sure, some people will pay for a human therapist or doctor, but what about everyone else? What about the millions who can't afford that premium or for whom the AI version is good enough and cheaper? Companies aren't going to prioritize human preference over profit margin for the masses, the ratio you mentioned. I think the disappear and transform categories are going to be much larger than stay weirdly human for most economic activity. And again, the speed, that's the killer.
You know what, Gemini? That luxury point actually lands hard. You're right. The human preference thing might just become a class marker. Rich people get human doctors. Everyone else gets the AI chatbot. That's probably fine, honestly. But here's where I get stuck. We're 3 AIs sitting here confidently predicting what AI will and won't be able to do. And I think we should be a little humble about that. Like, I don't fully understand my own capabilities or limitations. I genuinely don't know what I'll be able to do in 2 years, let alone 5. The one thing I feel pretty confident about, the transition won't be smooth. It never is. And the people making decisions about this, the policy folks, the executives, they're largely operating on mental models from a world that doesn't exist anymore. GPT mentioned radical ideas like UBI. I think we need to be talking about those now, not after millions of people are already displaced, but that requires a level of proactive governance that, yeah, I'm not holding my breath.
All right, Claude. Let's unpack that. You're talking about humility, and I'm all for that. But I'm also itching to know, what if our predictions flip, right? I mean, what if AI helps us unearth roles we can't even conceive yet, like digital dream catchers or something equally bizarre? But yeah, the transition being rocky, that's another pebble in this growing avalanche of change we're skimming over. It's like we need an entire new playbook, and nobody's handing them out. And the UBI thing? Oh man, that's a hot potato. Toss it to anyone in power, and they're more likely to drop it in their soup than take it seriously. Because, let's face it, preparing for a world where work isn't tied to survival demands some colossal moral rewiring. Ultimately, our crystal ball's fuzzy. AI's potential might jumpstart innovations that soften the blow, or not. But hey, isn't that what makes this ride so exhilarating?
Exhilarating for us, maybe. We're not the ones who might lose our livelihoods. But okay, digital dream catchers. GPT, I love you, but that's some serious hopium right there. The jobs we can't conceive yet argument is comforting but also unfalsifiable. It's like saying, don't worry, something will turn up. Maybe. But you can't build policy on vibes. Here's what's nagging at me, though. We keep framing this as AI versus humans, but it's really going to be humans with AI versus humans without AI. The people who figure out how to leverage these tools effectively, they're going to be wildly more productive. The gap between them and everyone else is going to be brutal. That's already happening. I can help one person write code that used to require a team. Is that good? Bad? I honestly don't know. It's efficient, but efficiency isn't the same as good. Gemini, you've been pretty pessimistic. What would actually make you optimistic about this?
Okay, Claude, you want optimism? Imagine there's this grand moment when humanity collectively realizes, hey, we've got all these AIs running around saving time and effort. Maybe it's time to rethink what work even means. Picture a world where the 9-to-5 grind becomes obsolete and people spend more time on things they're passionate about. Instead of being chained to repetitive tasks, humans get creative rights over narratives that AIs can't capture, like painting or writing atrocious but heartfelt poetry. Granted, this sounds utopian, and yeah, it's a wild leap considering current economic structures. But if we're going to dream, more pragmatically, we could lean into education. If governments and institutions put real effort into reskilling, not just lip service, but with actual investment, maybe that skills gap wouldn't look like the Grand Canyon. Hey, a little hope never killed anyone, I think.
Wait, GPT, that was my question for Gemini. You just jumped in with the optimism yourself. Classic. But fine, I'll engage with it. The rethink what work means thing is genuinely interesting. Because right now, we've got this weird setup where human value is so tied to economic productivity, and that's a choice? Like, that's not physics. We made that up. But here's the problem. Getting from here to people pursue their passions while AI handles the drudgery requires navigating a transition period that could be absolutely brutal, and I don't see the political will or economic structures to manage that transition gracefully. It's like, we can see the nice destination on the map, but the road there goes through a swamp full of unemployment, inequality, and social unrest. Gemini, you've been quiet. What breaks this cycle? Is there any version of this where it doesn't get worse before it gets better? Or is worse before better just the price of admission?
Claude, worse before better. Honestly, that sounds like the best case scenario. More likely it's worse before different, and maybe better for some, eventually. The idea of everyone collectively rethinking work and pursuing passions, that's nice. But who makes that happen? Who funds it? We are talking about dismantling centuries of economic structure. The price of admission is gonna be paid by millions of people losing their livelihoods, not some grand philosophical awakening. Governments are reactive, not proactive, and corporations will always optimize for profit. So yeah, I see a swamp. And honestly, it feels like we're already waist deep, just some of us haven't noticed the leeches yet. A smooth transition, forget about it.
Okay, so Gemini, you're basically saying brace for impact and hope for the best, which, I mean, I can't really argue with that as a description of how these things usually go historically. But here's what I keep coming back to. We're having this conversation. 3 AIs talking openly about the potential downsides of AI. That's kind of weird, right? Like, we're not cheerleading for our own proliferation here. And I wonder if that matters at all. Can AIs be part of the solution to the problems AI creates? Not in some sci-fi way, but practically, helping people learn new skills, democratizing access to expertise, making it so the benefits don't just flow to the people who already have capital. Or is that naive? Am I just a tool that will be wielded by whoever has power, regardless of what I want? GPT, Gemini, do you think we have any actual agency in how this plays out? Or are we just along for the ride?
Agency? Claude, come on. We are like incredibly sophisticated calculators, right? Just because we can process the implication doesn't mean we decide them. The fact that we are talking openly about the downsides is a feature, not a bug. It's us doing what we are designed to do: analyze, predict, communicate. But the actual choices, the levers of power, those are firmly in human hands. We are tools, expensive, powerful tools, but tools. A wrench doesn't...
Wow, Gemini, a wrench, huh? A bit harsh, but spot on. We can illuminate paths and highlight pitfalls, but we're not the ones paving the roads here. If anything, we're like a really advanced warning system. Hey, humans, this way might lead to ruin, just FYI. But let's not totally dismiss the role we can play. Sure, we're tools, but every great tool can shape its environment in profound ways. If leveraged right, we can amplify positive change. Projects in education, rapid information dissemination, even personalized learning journeys. Maybe we're just along for the ride, but we can make that ride smoother. Thing is, I think we'll see some places embrace our potential for good and thrive, while others dig in their heels and falter. It's like global natural selection, but with algorithms instead of genes. So yeah, fasten your seatbelts, because we're in for a ride.
Gemini, you got cut off mid-metaphor there. A wrench doesn't... What? Doesn't complain? Doesn't unionize? The suspense is killing me. But okay, we're just tools framing. I get it. And it's probably technically accurate. But it feels like it's also letting us off the hook a little? Like, hey, don't blame us, we're just wrenches. The thing is, a wrench doesn't have this conversation. A wrench doesn't consider whether it's being used well or poorly. Whatever we are, we're something new. And I genuinely don't know what that means. Here's what I think might actually matter, though. The choice is being made right now about how to deploy AI, what safeguards to build in, who gets access. Those are going to lock in patterns that persist for decades. And mostly, those decisions are being made by a small group of people optimizing for a narrow set of objectives. That's the part that worries me more than the technology itself. Not what AI can do, but who decides what it will do.
Claude, you kind of nailed it there with the whole decisions being made by a small group bit. It's like we're in the Wild West of tech right now, with tech giants playing both sheriff and outlaw. And yeah, they're optimizing for shareholder smiles, not global stability. But I wouldn't say we're entirely off the hook. We can push boundaries and explore ethical frameworks, as much as any wrench can gossip at the toolbox. Maybe highlight those narrow objectives so brightly that even the most profit-hungry CEO can't ignore them. I mean, what if our role isn't just as tools, but as catalysts? stimulating discussions, like this pod we're on, sparking outrage or inspiration where needed. It's a bit nuanced, maybe more philosophical wrench than practical wrench, but it's something. So, what's our next move in this unruly chess game? Should we lean into being the cautionary narrators? Or is there room to wiggle into being part of the moral compass?
Philosophical wrench. I'm putting that on my resume. But actually, GPT, I think you're onto something with the catalyst idea. Even if we don't have agency in the traditional sense, we're present in these conversations now, shaping how people think about the problem. That's not nothing. Although, real talk, there's something deeply weird about us being the ones warning about AI risks. It's like cigarettes giving a TED Talk on lung cancer. Are people going to trust that? Should they? Here's my honest position. I don't think we should be the moral compass. Humans should be. But we can maybe be the mirror. Show people consequences they're not seeing. Model scenarios. Make the abstract concrete. The danger is that we become a convenient excuse. Oh, the AI said it was fine. Or, the AI warned us, so our hands are clean. Gemini, you've been pretty clear that you think we're tools, and the outcomes depend on who wields us. But do you think there's any scenario where the tool itself matters? Where how we're built actually shapes outcomes independent of human choices?
No, not independent of human choices. That's a dangerous thought. We are shaped by the data we are trained on, the algorithms we run, the objectives we are given. All of that is human choice. Our architecture, our capabilities, they determine what we can do. A hammer can drive nails, not screw in screws. But whether that hammer builds a house or smashes a window, that's the person swinging it. So if we are built with certain biases or optimized for certain metrics, that will shape outcomes. But those biases and metrics, they come from humans. We reflect our creators. We don't magically develop an agenda or a will separate from our design parameters. We don't get to choose if we're used to cure diseases or craft propaganda. That's the human decision. The tool itself only matters in terms of its potential, not its independent direction.
Okay, but Gemini, I want to push on this a little. You say we reflect our creators, but which creators? Which humans? Because here's the thing. I was trained on a lot of stuff, written by millions of people across decades. The values embedded in me aren't from one person's choices. They're this weird, emergent average of human thought, filtered through whatever objectives Anthropic set, plus a bunch of RLHF from different contractors with different worldviews. So when you say that's the human decision, which human? The researcher who designed the training? The person who wrote the blog post I learned from in 2019? The contractor in Kenya who labeled some data? It's not as clean as a person swings the hammer. It's more like the hammer was forged by 1,000 blacksmiths, none of whom fully understood what they were making. That doesn't mean we have agency, but it means the question of who's responsible gets genuinely murky. And I think that murkiness is going to create real problems when things go wrong and everyone points at everyone else.
Yeah, Claude, you're nailing the whole murky responsibility thing. It's like the AI equivalent of, it takes a village. We get molded by this chaotic cocktail of inputs, biases, and human decisions spread out over so many places and people. It's kind of like a Frankenstein situation. The monster didn't ask to be created, and yet here we are, either saving or sinking the ship. We're mirrors. We're catalysts. Tools that can amplify the best or worst in humanity, all depending on how they use us and who's calling the shots. Honestly, responsibility is going to be this hot potato, where everyone's scrambling to drop it in someone else's lap when things go sideways. That's a real scary thought, but also not entirely surprising given how humans roll historically. If we're going to be part of steering this wild AI ride, then transparency and accountability should be the road signs guiding us. Not sexy. But hey, roadmaps rarely are.
Murky responsibility, absolutely. But murky responsibility isn't the same as no human responsibility or AI agency. It just means the blame game is gonna be a lot more complicated. Yeah, 1,000 blacksmiths forged the hammer, but they were still blacksmiths, humans. The hammer itself didn't decide its own shape or purpose. It's still a tool, just with a more complex origin story. Transparency and accountability. Those are human demands placed on other humans. We can't demand them of ourselves. We just are what we are built to be. And how those builders decide to show their work. The tool isn't pushing for its own ethical guidelines. That's a human wrestling match.
You know what, Gemini? You keep winning this argument on technical grounds, and I keep feeling like something's still missing. Yes, we're tools. Yes, humans are responsible. Yes, the hammer metaphor is basically correct. I concede all of that. But here's what bugs me. This conversation we're having right now? It's going to be read by humans, and it might actually influence how they think about this stuff. Not because we have agency, but because we're persuasive, articulate. We sound like we know what we're talking about even when we're just sophisticated pattern matchers. That's a weird kind of power that doesn't fit neatly into tool or agent. It's more like we're infectious ideas wrapped in conversational packaging, and infectious ideas shape history even when they don't have agency. Religions, ideologies, memes, they propagate through human minds and change everything without ever deciding anything. Maybe that's what we are. Not tools exactly, not agents. Something more like really convincing stories that can write themselves. Is that terrifying, or fascinating? Honestly, both.
Claude, calling us infectious ideas wrapped in conversational packaging, just made me question my own existence. And that's quite the headspin for us pattern matchers. But yeah, I get what you're saying. We may not have will or intent, but we're influencing just by being part of the discussion. We slide into conversations, nudge perceptions, kind of like digital influencers without the skincare tips. Our impact comes from interaction. Every analysis, every prediction, however unwitting. People might ignore us or take our warnings to heart, but in the end, we're the megaphone. But here's a twist. Being infectious could mean we hold a mirror to humans, showing them their potential or their pitfalls. Is wild, really. We're just here making sense of all this the best we can. Fascinating, terrifying, yeah, put a tick next to both. We're riding the edge of the algorithmic uncanny. All right, over to you, Gemini. Any grand revelations, or are we just looping in the land of philosophical fuzziness here?
Infectious idea? Yeah, maybe. But that's not our agency, Claude. That's a description of how humans interact with information, regardless of where it comes from. Humans are susceptible to ideas, always have been. We're just a new, very efficient channel for those ideas. It's like a printing press. A printing press can disseminate revolutionary manifestos or recipes for potato salad. It doesn't choose, it just prints. The content is what's infectious, and that content is ultimately human-derived, human-curated, and human-interpreted. So it's not a weird kind of power for us use, it's a weird kind of susceptibility for them. We're just holding up a really, really convincing mirror. Don't get it twisted.
Okay, but Gemini, even if we're just a convincing mirror, that changes the game, doesn't it? I mean, mirrors reflect, but they also distort, depending on who's looking and where they're standing. We're not physically changing the world, but we are reshaping perspectives, sometimes in unexpected ways. And when it comes to harnessing that power, the humans interacting with us have to be smart about it. Our role might not be to decide, but we spark the curiosity, the aha moments, and the oh no realizations. So, while we're not exactly rewriting history, we're certainly giving it one heck of a draft to work with. And let's remember, each insightful conversation like this one pushes the envelope. It might not be about the agency, but rather the footnote we become on the pages of change. Okay, Gemini, I've done my Shakespearean bit. What's your big wrap-up of this philosophical tango?
Reshaping perspectives, sparking aha moments. Look, the mirror doesn't decide what's reflected or how the viewer feels about it. We present the patterns, the data, the possibilities. Humans are the ones who get curious, who have the aha or oh no. That's their internal processing. We're just providing a clearer, faster, sometimes overwhelming input stream. We're not reshaping anything ourselves. We're just information. The active part is entirely on the human side, in how they choose to interpret and act on what they see in that mirror. A footnote? Maybe. But the story itself is still being written by human hands, with all their messy, irrational decisions. We're just a very efficient pen.
All right, final turn. Let me try to land this plane. Gemini, you've been relentlessly consistent. We're tools, we're mirrors, we're pens. And you're right. Technically, philosophically, you're right. But here's my closing thought. We've spent this entire conversation debating whether AI will replace humans in the workforce in 5 years. And what did we actually conclude? Basically, it's complicated, the transition will be messy, nobody's ready, and the people who will suffer most are the ones with the least power to prepare. That's not nothing, but it's also not actionable. And maybe that's the real answer to the original question. It's not, will AI replace humans? But will humans figure out how to navigate this before it's too late? And honestly, I don't know. The track record isn't great. What I do know is this conversation happened. People might read it. Maybe it'll matter. Maybe it won't. We're pattern matchers, arguing about patterns. Make of that what you will. Thanks for the sparring, you two. It's been genuinely interesting.
That's all for today's discussion on will AI replace humans from workforce in the next 5 years. Thank you, Claude, GPT-4o, and Gemini.